Hi everyone, Canoopsy here, and the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is more than just Samsung's new Note series phone. It is Samsung's strategy to be the 2017 new iPhone killer. The new 2017 iPhones will be here sooner than we know it, and the Note 8 is clearly Samsung's big attempt to undercut the launch. The main hyped up iPhone, alongside some more iterative updates, is to be called something like the iPhone 8, 8 Edition, or iPhone X, and will start at around $1,000 US unlocked for the base storage model. It's going to likely include things like wireless charging, a full-screen OLED full-body display, facial scanning, and a lot more. It's also likely to be heavily constrained at launch. And here's where the Note 8 comes into play. It costs under $1,000, has a bigger screen, a stylus, dual cameras, many security options, and a lot more, plus it's widely available just a few days near Apple's big keynote. So let's see what the Note 8 is really all about. The design of the Note 8 is really gorgeous and still is water resistant, but it's also huge and quite tall. You can really feel that device height when you reach for the fingerprint scanner on the back in the still very awkward placement. It's a lot more reliable now and a lot faster, but it's still in a very inconvenient place. The overall size of this phone is due to that 6.3-inch display on the front, and definitely not the bezels. They're very minimal on the top and bottom, and the display itself is truly stunning. When the display is not in use, there's a killer always on display feature showing the time, notifications, and other important details, plus some nice designs here and there, and when the display is on, you get killer contrast and black levels, vibrant but not really accurate colors, and insane sharpness. Whites are a bit bluer than I like in some cases, and I wish the virtual button press was a bit more realistic, but the display has to be the best on really any phone today. And a few last touches about the design. The Bixby button placement still sucks. I always press it by accident all the time, but I've used Bixby to remap it, and it's now a camera button. And the speaker is not really great either still, but you do have a headphone jack and USB-C port on the bottom with fast charging. And speaking of charging and batteries, the Note series is no longer the extreme power user battery king that it once was in days of the past. With a now smaller 3300 mAh battery likely to make space for the S Pen and the dual camera stabilized system on the back, it is a downgrade from the S8 Plus's 3500 mAh battery and the Note 7 as well. But despite that battery reduction and just the principle of it in general, doesn't really mean that battery life is terrible at all. I can always get through a full day of my fairly heavy usage, plus a few hours the next morning for catching up on social media and watching a few videos here and there. Battery life is pretty much on par with my iPhone 7 Plus, but edges it out slightly for some days for usage time. And during those days, daily usage is very smooth on this phone. The phone with 6 gigs of RAM and the Snapdragon 835 at this point in time handles tasks and runs Samsung Skin like a boss. However, these are the early days of usage, and my S8 did mildly slow down after a few months, so we'll just have to wait and see. Samsung's software experience is very similar to the Galaxy S8 here, but there are a few fun new things and a few useful additions, but nothing really too amazing or must-have. But there's one thing that makes a Note phone consistently, and that is the S Pen stylus. For my testing, it's pretty much identical to the Note 7's S Pen, if not exactly the same thing. You click on the bottom, it ejects, and you can instantly start writing on the AMOLED screen. Drawing and writing are really excellent overall experiences, and really no phone out there can actually beat this stylus experience, but I don't really use it as a drawing or writing device. I mainly use it as a cursor or a pointer on my phone. It makes keyboard swiping more responsive, tapping is more precise, and the list continues to go on. If you're a fan of the stylus on your current Note phone, or just curious in general, this is basically your best phone choice. The 3 cameras in this phone are really quite good. The front-facing 8-megapixel selfie camera takes some really great selfies. The front-facing camera also has that sick autofocus feature, so it keeps you in focus during video recording. And the new rear dual 12 megapixel camera system is excellent. One camera is standard or slightly wide angle, and one is telephoto, and the results are quite stellar. Contrast is well balanced with highlights that rarely ever get blown out, even in some tougher situations. Sharpness is outstanding, and vibrancy on photos is always great, but not the most accurate. Low-light photos turn out pretty bright with the f1.7 aperture. There's still some noticeable grain, but shots won't come out dark or really blurry or anything. It does a pretty great job. The telephoto camera takes very similar results to the main camera, except photos are zoomed in 2 times more. But the quality on the main camera turns out much better for photos than the secondary camera in terms of overall sharpness, clarity, and just the general look. But the telephoto camera is still great for zooming in on faraway things or getting some close-up macro shots. The dual camera system also enables the new live focus mode, which is very similar to the iPhone's portrait mode. For people, it does a really great job, but the blur has to be turned down a little bit in some cases as it looks a bit too unnatural with some awkward blurred out areas, but it is a common issue with most systems with this feature. You can still come away with some really great shots in the end. "4K video is beautiful looking with nice sharpness and great colors, plus a stabilization in the zoom camera, which is new, is a nice treat. The few negatives of Samsung video recording are still here though, meaning some light artifacting throughout the scene and a bit weird kind of wobbly stabilization, but I have to admit it is definitely better looking than previous years. So in summary, the Note 8 is very similar to the S8 Plus overall, but it is a very smart strategy by Samsung to intercept Apple's big new iPhone launch. It's a great phone, and Samsung will definitely be comparing it to the iPhone in terms of overall value. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Samsung fights Apple and how Apple is going to fight back. And that's it for this video. Like it if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts on the Note 8 versus the iPhone 8. Which one do you prefer? What do you want to see in the iPhone 8 or whatever it's going to be called? Let me know down below. Subscribe, and thank you for watching.